Coming up on Theater Talk.
Michael, stand up here and grab...
Just go up there.
I don't like this, Susan. This
Grab
is something
here.
you've worked out without me.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation.
Let us wage political war on our leaders and let music be our weapon. No longer will we make music of love, no longer of happiness or pleasure. Our music and our words must all be about the reality of Africa today. Afrobeat is the rallying cry for a new generation.
From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm the show's producer, Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
Fela is the most exciting musical Broadway has seen in a long time. Don't you agree, Michael?
Yeah, I saw Fela for the first time off Broadway last year, and I absolutely loved it. I am thrilled that it is opening on Broadway very soon. It is about the Nigerian political activist and songwriter Fela Kuti, and we have tonight with us the people who have put this extraordinary show together. I want to welcome to Theater Talk Bill T. Jones, who's conceived, directed, choreographed Fela, who also won a Tony Award for another favorite show of mine, Spring Awakening, and who happens to be one of the greatest choreographers in the world.
Oh, thank you.
Well, welcome. And I guarantee you this guy is going to be the discovery of the Broadway season. The next time you see him, he'll be on things like David Letterman and Jay Leno. This career is rocketing to the top. Sahr Ngaujah, which I hope I'm pronouncing correctly.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
All right. But you do the end for me. I like the way you do it.
Ngaujah.
Ngaujah, right.
Yeah.
Sahr is playing Fela Kuti, and it's an extraordinary performance, and welcome to Broadway.
Cheers.
And Steve Hendel is the producer, and I believe the man who really had the idea to do this musical, because you've been in love with the music of Fela Kuti for years, right, Steve?
For years, yes.
Yeah, well, welcome, and congratulations on the success of the show. All right, so Steve, take me back. When did you first come across the music of Fela Kuti, and how did it stick in your mind that someday there's a show here?
Well, I started listening to it probably about 10 years ago, 9-10 years ago. And I just couldn't stop listening to it. It was just this rich, throbbing, polyrhythmic music with these amazing lyrics that you had to listen to over and over again. And then I realized that he was writing about what was happening in Nigeria, and that this man who had created this, the best music really I'd ever listened to, that nobody knew who he was because he had stayed in Nigeria and used his music as a voice of the people and a voice of conscience against the succession of these terrible, terrible governments.
But Bill, Fela's music had a vogue here in the 70s, the zombie dancing stuff. You knew that music. I mean, were you dancing to that music in the discotheques in Studio 54?
Actually, no, because I was part of a crazy a collective of choreographers in upstate New York called the American Dance Asylum. And we were...
Good name.
Right. Well, it was a place of refuge. It was a place where you could be as crazy as you wanted to be. Both things were apt. And one of our important leaders, Lois Welk, was teaching class, and she went, believe it or not, to the local library looking for music for her class, and she saw this colorful album, and it was African music, and so she brought it back. And for weeks, we improvised to it and we listened to it and began to sort of, just like with Bob Marley, we began to think about world music in a different way. And I remember hearing the news reports about Fela being in jail.
Yes.
And so on, and I thought, oh, this is a rock musician with a difference. It goes a long ways back.
So you've been away, in a sense, been working on this show for 30 years.
Well, in the way in which I feel my struggles as an artist, I see them reflected in Fela's struggles, but no, not about Fela, but just about what it means to be engaged. As the French say, an artiste engagé, which is, he is the epitome of that. Yeah. And I've been called that myself, although I don't think I'm of the same temperament as Fela.
No.
I don't want a rifle butt to the head. Let's put it that way.
Now, Sahr, when did you first discover Fela Kuti? Or were you new to him when you got the job in the show?
No, actually, I think I've been hearing Fela's music of all of my life. My father is a serious music lover, and in the 80s, he was a DJ in Atlanta. He was one of the top DJs for African parties in the city at the time. And I always heard the music. You know, I didn't really know what it was, but at a certain point, one of the songs that had somehow become my favorite because it just really stuck in my head because of, you know, the singers, you know, they have this light voice, you know, the wives. So I thought it was a kid's song, really.
What was the song?
ITT.
Merck and Halliburton. WTO. I am all ITT. All ITT. Not little tiff tiff, big tiff tiff.
You know, like if you steal something in a village where my family's from, or in Sierra Leone, I think in Liberia they kind of do the same thing. If you steal something, they will say tiff, tiff, tiff. And when people hear that, they look and they see someone running and they join in, tiff, 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 tiff. And the idea is that they begin to chase this chap, tiff, tiff, tiff. Then he explained to me International Tiff Tiff. Then he explained to me the company. And, you know, it really, my head really began to spin at that point.
But
I was
this is
quite
it, though,
young.
about Fela. I mean, you listen to the music and you think, oh, you can dance to it. But then when you peel it back, you think, this is a man who is in the political fight of his life. Can you give us a little bit about his life story?
Well, he was born to a very well-educated members of the intelligentsia. His mother was the leader of the Nigerian women during the fight for independence. His father was a minister. His grandfather was a minister who had tremendous music talent, who arranged Christian hymns for the Anglican Church and was brought back to England to do that for the whole Anglican Church. And he was educated to be a doctor, to be a leader in the post-colonial independent Nigeria. He was sent to London to study medicine, but he studied music instead. He was influenced by Miles Davis, Charlie Mingus, John Coltrane, Cuban Afrobeat musicians, and Afro-Cuban musicians. And then he went back to Lagos, and he could not succeed as a musician, trying to take this jazz influence he had and combine it with the local high life music. He went to America. He met a woman who was a member of the Black Panthers. She educated him about what was happening in the 60s in the U.S. and the black community. He was exposed to Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and all sorts of other, black thinking. And he realized that there was a huge political struggle going on here in this country. But in Africa, really, the struggle was between the people who had seized power and the corruption that had destroyed, really, the hopes of independence. Yeah. And he took on this mission and responsibility.
So he went back to Nigeria
to use his music to fight these people.
He really would have had a bigger career in the West, but he made the choice.
Well, that's what struck me in learning about him and listening to the music is he was uncompromising. He was a total artist, and he was beloved and an icon to James Brown, Ginger Baker, Paul McCartney. All these people, were huge fans of his. But he refused to leave Lagos, and he stayed and endured 20 years of being thrown in and out of jail, of being beaten.
And the murder of his mother.
Yes.
That was a great moment of enlightenment for him when his agitation and his personal life and all of his transgression really resulted in this most dear person and in some ways the mother of the modern Nigerian nation being killed. Yeah. That's one thing that our show is talking about. It's interesting about this idea of the underground because one of my young performers told me 2 years ago at a workshop that when he told certain friends, people older than his stepfather, that he was going to be in a show that might be a Broadway show about Fela, they were offended.
Why?
And they stopped speaking to him for a while because Fela is the underground. Right? Fela is like, this is very, very real for many, many people, particularly of my generation. Fela was supposed to be the real thing. A person who was willing to, literally 200 times he was dragged into court.
Yeah.
So did they think that that was irreverent, that they were
Was it going to be too mainstream?
Oh, yeah, all of the above.
Yeah.
I think those people may have come around now, because now it's a new time. And I think that, that Fela actually does have something to say to many people right now. I know that when we did it off Broadway, I love the mix of people in the house.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love the kind of the sophisticates from the Nigerian elite now, who would not a generation ago have been allowed to go. They came to the show and said, you know, when we were growing up, our parents told us not to listen to this music. And they said we really enjoyed, or people who had been children of some of those same generals who used to be in his shrine, but you would all have to be in the dark, but you were there,
Right.
because, you know, it was like the thing to do.
Well, we should say he had the shrine was a sort of like
the
a
shrine.
club, a place where he
Yeah.
played and other people played, and a lot of the political agitation was coming out of almost a discotheque in a strange way.
And he lived with his 37 wives, right?
The number changes.
Let's not exaggerate.
Let's not exaggerate. Let's say 27. I think that's an official figure, 27.
Depending on how many people came to the club on Friday night.
That's a very complicated story in itself, and we've tried to, you know, we tell the story, but we don't focus on that. I heard his son Femi being interviewed once, who was a bit hurt. He said, why do people want to talk about that aspect of my father's private life when, in fact, he represented, speaking for the underclasses in Nigeria and around the world, and he was a great artist. We feel we play it in our show for all that it says about Fela, thinking that this is what an authentic new Africa would look like.
Sahr, the way Bill has staged this wonderful musical, you are on stage virtually the entire time, channeling this entertainer. What's your process to get up that energy to do this amazing performance?
Oh, well.
Youth and the Broadway paycheck.
It's an amalgamation. Just rubbing it to some paste and dip some into the water. But yeah, I know. I mean, quite practically, it's. I mean, I don't know what I can say for my own energy, you know. But I mean, I train a lot, you know, and on the off season, I train a lot as well. Just for stamina, for mental energy as well. You know, just I really try to train that muscle that tells you that you can just keep going. You know, like, you know, when you're running really far and you can just kind of relax at a certain point and, you know, just tell your body like, hey, now we can just go.
Did you have it set up, Bill, that he would do so much before you found this actor, or did you, once you met this actor, think, wow?
I was working on a Willpower wonderful musical called The Seven with Joe Bonney, and they were auditioning. I was choreographing it down at New York Theater Workshop. And this guy came in, and I think Steve and I had early conversations already, and Jim Lewis, our co-writer, we had been working on it. And this guy walked in, and I said, oh, that's Fela. I kept this picture. Didn't I give it to you immediately?
Yes, absolutely.
And no one ever came to read for me who was better. Now, who was willing to, I say, okay, I need you to be in your briefs now. And, you know, now read this, because, you know, Fela is famous, for those of people who have seen him, he's famous for sitting in his Speedos.
That's right.
And he was so natural with it. You know,
Right into the Speedos, just like that.
Talk about running and conditioning. There's a story I love to tell, is that when we were running at 37 Arts last year, I think the show had already opened, rush hour traffic, and I'm in my car, and traffic is terrible heading toward the bridge, and I see a lone man with clothes running through the street, and I said, these New Yorkers are crazy. I see it's my lead. He's running to the theater through traffic like that. So what are you doing out in the middle of the road running like, you know?
And you knew right away that he was your Fela.
Yeah, he was outstanding.
Yeah.
And I'll say one other thing. You know, we workshopped it in various dance studios, a week here, 10 days here. And the whole time that we would do this, whenever there was a break, you'd look off in the corner, and there was just going through his lines and his motions, and just the total concentration It was really, because he's on stage 2.5 hours.
And
it's a very intense show.
What is a particular challenge, Steve, in getting people to come to see the show?
Well, it is it isn't a typical show. It's not staged typically. The one thing Bill mentioned, the people who came to see it off Broadway and the diversity. And, this is a universal message. This is about speaking truth to power. It's about what a human being can stand for and what being committed is and what it means in today's world. And I would say the audience off Broadway was 75% white, 25% African American,
And young, that was the exciting thing.
and not just young but old too.
Yeah.
And we would have
like us,
or older than us.
It was. Well, I saw before the great reviews came out. It was fascinating to see. You saw a young audience, and then when you get these great reviews, suddenly the elites of town show up. The limousines are around the block. Do you think, though? I mean, because you did Spring Awakening too, another innovative show. Do you think that after all these years of Broadway being a very orthodox, traditional place for rich people on the whole, do you get a sense that Broadway is changing, that the audience is changing, and we can do different kinds of material now?
And I hope this doesn't sound stale, because I've had to say it so many times to people from the other world that I come from, which is the performance world, the art world, downtown, whatever you want to call it, that this is an exciting time right now, even with the economic downturn, because I think Broadway is really looking now. And there's a lot of stories that can be told and are being told, and how you tell them, I believe, is something that we can change now. You wouldn't think that with some of the headaches we've had in getting to this point, but there is a kind of atmosphere now where people are, hopeful. And they're looking for something. And I, particularly people of color, when I won the Tony for Spring Awakening, sometimes journalists of color would take me aside and say, man, this is important, that because, I said, what do you mean Broadway for people of color? And they said, there are not many of us there. I said, okay. A Spanish guy came to me and he said, what do you think this means for people who are Spanish speaking? And I said, the doors are opening. Now you have to be ready. Are the actors ready? Are the directors ready? Are the stories ready? Are the producers ready? And we've seen successive shows like In the Heights and so on. Maybe now things are really ready to change.
And people can finally make a living when you get a show on Broadway.
Yes.
Which is the big thing. All right, well, listen, Fela is going to change Broadway. It's a great show. All the political stuff is there, but you're going to have a hell of a time. Bill T. Jones, who has directed and choreographed Fela, thanks for being our guest tonight on
Great
Theater
pleasure
Talk.
to be here.
Sahr Ngaujah, did I get it right?
Yes.
The superstar of Fela. And Steve Hendel, without whom there is no Fela, because
Bless Steve.
you're a brave man to bring this to Broadway. And I wish you
slightly crazy.
I wish you a lot of success.
I'll turn Nigeria upside down. The police will try and shut me down, but the government won't come near me. I am the law and will do what I please. So, yeah, man. Make me your new black president.
Getting under par. We got the daughters of the DAR. We got the daughters of the bourgeoisie. We got the misbegotten G.O.P.
There's a revival of Finian's Rainbow now on Broadway. It is truly magical, and it's the magic of Finian's Rainbow we are going to talk about this week on Theater Talk.
Not only is there magic, there are also some pretty damn good performances in the show, and we are delighted tonight to be joined by Chuck Cooper, who is knocking the audience out with The Big Ad. I think that's your big song in the show, right, Chuck?
It is.
Yeah, and it's nice to see you again on Broadway, because I remember you unforgettably, that great performance in Cy Coleman's The Life, about 10 years ago now, is it?
Yeah.
Tony winning.
Tony winning, yeah.
Yeah.
Chuck is involved in some very crafty and clever magic tricks in the show. They have been designed by Matthew Holtzclaw, who you've worked with Penn and Teller and a whole bunch of other magicians, and you're a magician yourself.
That's
aren't you,
right.
Here in the city.
That's correct.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, magic on Broadway, we don't really see, outside of Penn and Teller, when they come to Broadway, we don't see the kind of tricks that are being executed in Finian's Rainbow. Can you just give us a sense of the kind of tricks that people will see in this show?
Well, what's wonderful about working in theater with magic is that the magic is actually organic to the show, that it lives in the world of the play. It's not just like in a magic show wheeling out a big weird box.
And I'm going to pull a rabbit out of a hat. And
right,
that's it.
and it has no kind of context or any kind of human drama to it. So all the tricks that happen in the show, the ones with Chuck and with Chris Fitzgerald, it's all somebody wants something and it appears. Or in Chuck's case, it's that someone wishes that Senator Brockins was black, and he turns into Chuck Cooper.
That's well, just for people who haven't seen the show, just set that little moment up in the show with this the trick.
Well, Senator Hawkins is the curmudgeon-y Southern senator, racist Southern senator, who is, spouting off and making everyone really angry in town. And the new young lady in town, Finian's daughter, basically gets angry at him and wishes that he, in order to experience the other side, if you will, wishes him black. And magically, he's standing by the magic crock of gold, and he turns black. And he turns into Chuck Cooper.
Now, in the old days, they would put blackface on the actor,
Yes.
all that. You had to come up with a whole new way of making this key moment in the show happen.
That's right.
So how do you put that together?
It's switching two people while the audience isn't looking, and that's really how every magic trick kind of works. It happens when the audience makes eye contact with you, or you get them to look in the wrong direction, or you just kind of make their assumptions start to build in the wrong direction. And that's kind of, we do all three of those things for this trick to happen. And every night I've seen it, the audience has this pop once they look back, and all of a sudden this man is now a different man.
Do you ever worry the trick's going to go awry, though, Chuck?
Oh God, yeah. Oh my God, because my movement from a stationary position to the new position of discovery, it has to be very quick, and it happens in total blackness, and there's people moving, so anything could happen.
And it's about 2 seconds.
This is interesting what you say about magic, though, because I'm sort of interested in the techniques, if you will. I mean, a fundamental thing to any magic trick is misdirection, right? I mean, the audience thinks it's seeing something that it's not seeing, or the magician is ahead of the audience in some way.
That's
how does
correct.
that work?
Misdirection is not in every trick, but it always helps. And it's something that there's really only 10 things you can do in magic. There's you can make something appear, you can make something disappear, something can teleport from here to here, something can transform. I won't go into the rest.
Something can become Chuck Cooper.
Something can become Chuck Cooper. Things can float, that kind of sort of thing. So you're kind of limited by the kind of physical laws that you can break, and all of those tricks have numerous different methods of how to. I mean, there's many other methods we could do to make them switch. We just picked the most elegant and the one that fit the world of the play the best, I think. So, but misdirection is a big part of it in every single trick.
That's the key thing. Now we only have a minute left.
Well, I know. I just want to ask Chuck something.
But
let me finish.
Can you make him disappear?
Yes, absolutely. Help me out.
I'd be glad to.
An old joke there. You're serious.
Absolutely.
You can really make him disappear?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, do this. Michael, stand up here and grab.
Just go up there.
I don't like this, Susan. This
Grab
is something
here.
you've worked out without me.
Actually, from the other side, if you don't mind, we come around and grab. Perfect. Yeah, and we're going to wrap you up, Michael.
Okay, but I mean, you can make me come back, right? Because I'd like to
don't
get my
make any-
question in, please.
I don't make any promises, really.
you.
All
Yeah.
right, you comfortable in there, Michael?
Yeah, I'm
All right,
I'm
on
all
the count of three. 1, 2, 3.
I feel so likable. I love Broadway.
Have a seat
Broadway
there.
loves me. Hi. Hello. It's so lovely to see you.
It's Christopher Fitzgerald, another star of Finian's Rainbow. Christopher.
Yes?
You play Og the Leprechaun in Finian's Rainbow.
I do, I
You
do.
do lots of tricks. Did
Tons of them.
Matthew teach you the tricks?
And Matthew has shown me everything I've ever learned about magic.
How's he doing?
He's incredible. Best student I've ever had.
He's great. I'm on stage with him, and he fools me all the time.
I love you as my lovable new co-host, but I'd feel a little more at home if you were, say, like the monster from Young Frankenstein, Igor.
It would make you feel a little bit more,
Just
a little
like
more
normal.
familiar,
Yeah.
like normal.
So could you say good night as Igor from Young?
Good night. This is Theatre Talk. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Chuck Cooper.
Thank you.
so
Bye,
lovely.
Broadway. Love you, Broadway. Now, let's talk about how great you are.
You can sign up for viewer updates at theatertalk.org.
Or you can Twitter us.
Oh, my heart is beating wildly, and it's all because you're here. When I'm not near the girl I love the girl I'm near. Every femme that flutters by me is a flame that must be fanned. When I can't fondle the hand I'm fond of, I fondle the hand at hand.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Eleanor Naylor Dana Charitable Trust, the Alan S. Gordon Foundation, the Corey and Bob Donnelly Charitable Fund, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, and the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you and good night.